Before we start the show, just a word from our sponsor, Undeniable Press. For all your screen printing needs, located in the Corktown district of Detroit, Michigan. If you ever need any t-shirts or any other little promo accessories, posters, or whatnot printed up for you, go to Undeniable Press. They're located, once again, in the Corktown district of Detroit, Michigan, and you can reach them at facebook.com/undeniablepressdetroit. And those same guys who do Undeniable Press also have a clothing line called 20 by 20 Apparel. It's very much wrestling themed, all sorts of nostalgic themes in regards to the history of wrestling. And you can go check out their clothing line at 20x20apparel.com. That's the number 20x, the number 20apparel.com. Now let's start the show.
Fresh is the word.
I'm Jim Duggan, got long wood for plenty hoes. I keep it fresher than fresh, but you already know. You suckers bummy, I'm money, I got a ton of flows. My weed loud like a motherfucking thunder roll. Your shit quiet like you ballin' on a budget though. We see your kicks and we laugh and yellin' what are those. You see me shining like a suit on puffy. You know my grindin' shit is too strong, buddy. That's why the dude call money. I be stuntin' like it's nothing at all. Cause it's nothing to me, it's probably something to y'all. Trying to smoke like me, then come and fuck with your dog. Got a closet full of kicks, you can't cop it them all. And I'm fresher than the freshest, you can tell it's in my essence. Bitch, you see the way I'm rapping, yes I do this shit to death. Until I'm running out of breath, or tell somebody cut a check. But either way you know it's fresh, and either way you know it's fresh. Fresh, we fresh. Fresh, 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 goddammit, we fresh.
Welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. And like always, we have a great show for you. This week's guest is the New Jersey-born and bred hip-hop artist CRIMEAPPLE. During our interview, we talk about his new album, Aguardiente, produced entirely by Big Ghost, which, if you remember, was a Fresh is the Word pick of the week back in episode 73. We talk about that, along with the building of a brand as an extension of your artistry, along with keeping your integrity when your career starts to ascend. CRIMEAPPLE is definitely a part of the new era of hip-hop artists, bringing a lyrical, heavy, dark, and grimy sound reminiscent of those early days of Mobb Deep, and currently in the same vein as the likes of Roc Marciano, Westside Gunn, and Conway. A lot of good shit coming out from all those guys. An aesthetic where the product is heavy in artistry and culture. So let's get on to the interview with CRIMEAPPLE. Wasn't too long ago that I first came about your music, because House Shoes was playing it on his Magic radio show, and I was like, dude, this is the type of shit that I like, you know. And then when you put out your recent album that was produced by Big Ghost, am I saying it right? Aguardiente?
Yeah, no, it's good.
All right, good. I was so impressed by that album. It's like one of my favorites, if not my favorite hip hop album of the year thus far.
Well, you know, it's still early, but I appreciate that.
Cool, man. So, you know, getting into things, you're have you always you're originally from New Jersey?
Born and raised.
Cool. How did you first get into being doing hip hop, being a hip hop artist?
I mean, it's just kind of like it was already just in the molecules, you know. I don't know if I ever really saw a future in it per se. But, you know, it was always something that I was pretty, I guess, skilled at, you know, in terms of, like, writing or whatever, performing and stuff like that.
Okay. How old are you right now?
No birth certificate. That's a documented answer if you listen to any interview. There's no birth certificate on me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I tell you what, I feel like I'm 21, that's for sure.
Oh, that's what's up. Yeah, the cool thing is about like your music, it's just like I feel like it's next in the line of this sort of rebirth of like that sort of grimy East Coast, hip hop. And I felt like it all kind of started like with people like Roc Marciano and Ka, where it was just like something changed. They were doing something that was a throwback to something from the '90s or whatever, but it felt different. When you kind of think about your style and how it relates to others, how where does this come from? Where does the influence come from? Why does it feel like this is such a new and sort of fresh thing, even though it does have elements of some older hip hop?
That's hard to say for me. Perspective wise, I'm not doing anything, differently per se, drastically differently, than I was doing, whatever, a handful of years ago, close to a decade ago. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of rhymes that came out this year on various projects and songs that were written in 2009, 2010. You know what I'm saying? And I might have just dusted them off and did a little editing so I could match the times a little bit better. But I really don't know. I think hip hop is, definitely one of the only genres that I know that has such a deep appreciation for a new artist, that resonates. So, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I hear people say that all the time, like Second Coming and all that kind of stuff. But, that's not really for me to pick apart. I'm just doing what I would normally be doing, whether anyone was listening or not.
Right. So, it seems like you've been doing this for a while now. What happened to where, maybe just out of the blue, maybe the past year or so, there's been more of a buzz for what you've been doing? What changed? Is there anything that changed in the past year?
I mean, a lot changed in the past year. If I had to say, it's kind of like it's like a step-by-step process, I think. I think one of the first times that a lot of people maybe were privy to what I was doing might have been when I went up to Static show on Shea 45, and then it kind of just trickled on from there. Whereas, then I popped up on Hush Kingpin's album, you know what I'm saying? And it just kind of spreads out from there. The next thing, I'm on Smooth's album, then I'm on Makami's album, and it kind of just it seems like a wildfire from that point.
Before all that happened, why do you think you were so low key about everything? Were you just kind of in a sort of a tunnel doing your own thing? Why was it such a low key thing before all of this happened?
I mean, because you know what? Because cash is, because what has it go? Rap is secondary, money is necessary. So I really didn't have the dedication, I guess, to actually treat rap like a career. You know what I'm saying? Like, regardless if we were talking right now or not, I would still be coming out of my pocket and putting my time and energy into making music, because that's what I'm going to do no matter what, no matter who listens. But I guess there was that point of, I guess, like a somewhat, some small validation where, I saw like a lot of feedback, I guess, and not just like in my area, you know what I'm saying, different parts of the country, different countries. And next thing you know, someone wants to buy a verse or whatever. And then I said, okay, then, if this is something that I could turn into a business, then, it gets 210% of my time. But prior to that, I didn't really see it as being a viable option to make money.
Right. Since, has there been like sort of a, bit of a holy shit moment that you can remember where just like you think, hey, I could actually be doing this as a career for a long time at this point? Do you have any of those holy shit moments?
I have holy shit moments like every other day, to be honest with you. Last couple of months. That's what it feels like. Yeah, there's a bunch though. You know what I'm saying? Going up to the radio and, blazing Static show, and there being no question as to what happened. You know what I'm saying? That was a moment like, holy shit. Meeting Premier, that's a holy shit moment. Meeting a lot of cats, you know what I'm saying? Or, someone reaching out. So there's some holy shit moments that I can tell you about, and there's other ones that I can't tell you about because that's at the other artist's discretion. But, there's certain artists that have reached out to me to do work for them.
Right.
And it's definitely like, holy shit, because I was just listening to you right before you called. You know what I'm saying? Next thing you know, I got a message or whatever, a text or, and they're asking me to get on their album. So that's holy shit moments. Even me just doing what I'm doing, I think one of the illest holy shit moments, and it's probably like basic in comparison to what I'm talking about, but I see a lot of people gravitating to what I do in other states and other countries. So a real holy shit moment for me that happens every once in a blue is when I see someone riding by me in my neighborhood when I'm walking back from the grocery store and they're playing my shit in their car. And I'm like, wow, how do you even know?
Right. Wow. Yeah, it must be that must be a nice feeling to hear that in your own neighborhoods.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, everything is a nice feeling. When you have aspirations to do something that's not the normal type of job, you're always going to have, whether it's friends, families, or peers, telling you that you should have a backup plan. You should do this, you should do that. And, when you realize you really don't need the backup plan as much as they think you did, that's the biggest validation. You know what I'm saying?
Given that, maybe before you didn't have, much thought going into what you wanted to do with your hip hop career, but then all of a sudden things started to go your way. Has there been any sort of inner accountability that you needed to put upon yourself to be able to sort of reach any sort of new goals or just even keep things going on a daily basis?
I tell you what, man, I try to keep everything balanced. I don't know if I think about it that deep. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like autopilot for me. I feel like I'm full of good ideas, whether it's branding or marketing myself or, the tone that I want to follow up my last project with. So I'm just kind of I think it comes through in the music, I'm just having a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up with, marketing and branding. I feel like between cats like you or Roc Marciano or Westside Gunn, Conway, they have these ways of making everything that they put out, whether it's the music or T-shirts or whatever, special. How do you go about sort of making any sort of thing that's a part of your sort of brand, so to speak, special for your audience?
You can't even, it's intangible. You can't even describe it. It's like the secret sauce. It's not something that, it doesn't require, if it requires too much thought, then it's probably not the way to go. There's a million rappers who are supremely talented, maybe in some cases, possibly, not likely, but in some cases, maybe even more talented than myself, who will never, ever, ever get the burn that they maybe think they deserve because they don't think about these other things at least a little bit. Some people, they're nice, and then you look at their mixtape cover, and it just looks like trash. Or you look at the Instagram, and it looks like trash. Or the music video is trash. Or the merch is trash. So you could be the nicest rapper ever, but if everything else doesn't kind of flow together seamlessly, then you're up shit's creek.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, on your Aguardiente album, it was produced entirely by Big Ghost. How did that all come about? How did you come about doing this collaboration for this album?
That was pretty simple. He just he had hit me up, and I think someone had mentioned it. Actually, Nick Garter. Shout out to Nick Garter, the barber from Ohio. He had mentioned wanting to see that happen, and then Big Ghost hit me. Was like, "Yo, I was already thinking about that. What's up?" And that was it. It was that simple.
Word. Yeah. What I like about cats like you is that it's you're putting out music that is full of great lyricism. Very the vibe of the album is the music is very grimy, kind of dark, and it's not necessarily You're not necessarily glorifying anything that you're rapping about. It's more about a realness involved with it all. It kind of reminds me, like, my favorite hip hop album of all time is The Infamous from Mobb Deep, and that's something that album did well. It talked about some real shit, but never really glorified anything. Kind of speak about your content and kind of keeping that realness aspect to your raps and to the content of your music.
Again, it's really just balance. I think I try to definitely put facts about my life without giving too much away, but I also try to make sure that there's some moments that are humorous or some moments that are going to make you, pull on your heartstrings a little bit.
Right.
I think, a good song or a good album should kind of be like a good movie that kind of evokes all types of emotions. And, I managed to kind of be able to do that without having to think about it too hard or like plan it out. And it just kind of just falls together. But it's been like that, for a minute now.
How do you go about sort of, picking parts of your own life and sort of injecting it into your rhymes while keeping it relatable to, anybody that wants to listen?
That's a good question. I guess I make sure that I understand how it makes me feel. I kind of got to have an idea of, what I want you to think about it. And, you might not think what I wanted you to think about it, but I definitely have an idea. Like if I'm talking about some shit that's, that hurt me a lot, I'm probably 9 times out of 10, going to say it in a way where you're going to feel my pain to a certain extent. But at the same time, it's like with stuff like that, to a lot of people, it's never what it is to me. There's certain songs that are out that people are like, oh, yeah, I love that song. And I hate that song because that song reminds me of some terrible shit. But, whatever, it was therapeutic.
Right, definitely. When you sort of, look back at, the journey that you've had thus far, with the whole, like, maybe you weren't, thinking about, hip hop as a career too seriously before, but then things started to pop off. What sort of lessons would you tell someone maybe listening to this podcast that was maybe going down the same journey where things might not be popping off for them instantly? What sort of advice would you give to that person?
It's like twofold. I would say, one, don't ever be afraid to experiment and to, use trial and error and step outside of your comfort zone. I think that's very important. But what's even more important than that is just sticking to your guns and just, telling your story the way you want to tell it. But, what's of even more importance is to be honest with yourself, because you could lie to everybody, but you can't lie to yourself. At the end of the day, I know when I'm working my hardest and I know when I could be doing better, and I would definitely say that things didn't really start connecting until I was really like, I'm going to really work as hard as I can. And that's kind of when it starts working, because you don't have to be the most talented person in the world to resonate with people, but you have to have some of both. It can't just be all talent and no hard work, or it can't just be all hard work and no talent. Just because you don't burn rice doesn't mean that you should be a chef in a 5-star hotel. You got to be real with yourself. It's not for everybody.
How important do you think it is to have that sort of positive, honest outlook onto yourself, but then also have positive, honest people around you during this time?
For me, I think it's relatively easy because I don't really let my circle, get oversaturated ever in life, really. So, I know there's definitely like new faces and, new names that are trying to come into the picture and offer their 2 cents or, get down with the get down. But I'm real big on like energy and stuff. So I can kind of see the bullshit right at the door. So it's not something that really affects me in any way. You know what I'm saying? Like I still have the same small circle, helping me do what I do.
Now that you're at this time where you're starting to gain some steam in music, kind of buzzing a bit, people are asking you for features, blah, 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 a bunch of different stuff. How do you sort of deal with all that and not sort of get a big head and keep things moving along in a really positive manner?
Well, again, that's just like a matter of, that's another place where balance comes into effect, right? Because I'm not going to sit here and act like, my work should cost what it cost a year ago, right? But then at the same time, I'm not going to be a dickhead and act like, you got to pay me, $3,000 for a verse or something crazy like that either. So I think it's just, being realistic. But anyone who knows me, whether they talk about it in a positive light or a negative light, and maybe to my own detriment, I'm very approachable. I'm a very realistic person. I mean, I don't, what I'm saying? It's a lot easier to let someone else who knows me well tell it. But, I'm not a stupid guy. I'm a very self-aware person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would never, let my head get too big. But at the same time, it's like, what are we here for? You know what I'm saying? Like, the numbers got to go up. These are the fruits of labor. So, the stock is going up, and as long as I keep doing the good work, to justify that, I don't really think, anyone could ever tell you that, CRIMEAPPLE's getting a big head or some shit like that. It's just false.
Right. Yeah, that's everything you're saying is like a good idea about knowing your own value. And I feel like a lot of the more underground artists outside of the mainstream stuff, people like Roc Marciano, who's selling $30 digital albums and $100 vinyls, or the clothing merch that Westside Gunn and Conway are doing. They're establishing a value. How important is it to establish your own value and know it and be able to sell it to your audience?
If this is what you do as a job, it's the most important thing that you could do outside of making, quality content. Those are if this is what you do for a living, I think the 2 most important things are doing your very best and, having the cojones to say, this is what I want. You know what I'm saying? And as long as, I've said this before, as long as, you go to sleep at night with a clear head, I mean, at least that's important for me. A lot of people, and sometimes I don't always do that, but I think for the most part, when I'm operating, in any capacity, whether it's selling, merchandise or an album or a feature, I always go to sleep well at night because I know I'm not trying to take advantage of nobody and, leave people bankrupt or overprice something, There's like a small pocket. It's a balance, someone might feel comfortable selling a fucking $100 digital album or $1,000 CD. More power to them. You know what I'm saying? It's not my place to knock what anyone else is doing. My only job is to make sure that I sleep well at night.
In regards to that, just the idea of being able to have that sort of clear conscience and sleep well at night, how do you sort of combat that when there's so much temptation in the music industry to sort of do different things and maybe even cut corners or get over on other people? How do you sort of keep that conscience clear?
I mean, that's easy because, when I was coming up, I had my fair share of raw deals where, people didn't do what they were supposed to do. And I did what I was supposed to do. And in plenty of those instances, I've seen karma come right back to those people. You know, whether they fucking, you know, whether they got to take, whether they got to fucking, you know, face certain circumstances that they didn't, you know. I'm just a firm believer in karma. You know what I'm saying? So I know if I start fucking around and doing people dirty, it's only going to come back to me tenfold. So why even do that? It doesn't even make sense. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, this is a community. And the only way that it survives and thrives is by, you know, anyone who's playing a role in it to do right, by, at least to the best of their ability, to do right by their peers. So I really don't feel any temptation. You know, I'm talking to someone right now who wants to, you know, get a record from me somewhere in Italy, and I feel like he's like a little, we're going back and forth on the email, and he's a little nervous about paying a deposit because he's thinking that I might like never do the record. And I'm just like trying to assure him, like, man, you know, I'll definitely do what I said I'm going to do. And in the event that I don't, it's well documented. There have been times where, you know, fucking, I don't have the time to get to something that someone paid me to do. And if that ever happens, I will refund that person's money with the quickness, even with the merch, to the best of my ability. You know, when I'm selling a shirt or a jacket, I'm pretty meticulous, you know? Some people are a little thrown off when I'm like, yo, what's your measurements? You know what I'm saying? Chest to chest. How long does the shirt need? How long does the jacket need to be? And even in those instances where people provide measurements and I come out of my pocket and I get something done, you know, to the best of my ability, I'll give you a full refund and I'll take that back. You know what I'm saying? Because what's more important in business than, you know, the customer being happy? Customer's not always right, but I do want you to be able to say, you know, CRIMEAPPLE was a stand-up dude. You know what I'm saying? And I never heard anyone say otherwise.
Right. In the example you said about the guy in Italy wanting to get a record from you, there, you know, is there any sort of you know, preconceived notions that people have towards just rappers in general that get sort of projected on you that you often have to combat? And how do you combat all those sort of stereotypes and preconceived notions?
By just doing what I normally do, which is defy them anyway. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people expect rappers to be late. You know, I'm very rarely late to anything. I'm usually a little early. You know what I'm saying? Like whenever you know, if I'm going to record something, chances are, you know, the engineer is going to show up and I'm going to be sitting right in front of the studio having a smoke, just waiting for him or whatever. It happens. You know what I'm saying? People expect, you know, people always expect funny business, I guess, based on prior dealings with other people, but I don't really worry about that. You know what I'm saying? It's you're either going to do business with me and figure out that I do it the right way or you're not, and either way, more power to you.
Whether it's, you know, other MCs, other artists, DJs, producers, or even your fans, you know, how important is it in building your career to have that sort of sense of community and to kind of, you know, build this sort of universe that everybody's a part of? How important is that to building a career?
I mean, it depends on the type of career we're talking about. I think that, and you use the word industry.
Yeah.
I look at my thing as very DIY. So, I mean, it depends on the career you're talking about. But for me, and the way I do things, which is just very grassroots, it's very important for me to be, you know what I'm saying, upfront and vocal and, you know, respond to comments and, you know, engage with people and see if they got their order and all that kind of stuff, because I've almost, you know what I'm saying, I've had people in my circle tell me that it almost seems like every time I get a win, it's like the people who've been following from earlier on, they kind of feel justified and they get excited. You know what I'm saying? And I like that. So it's like, you know, we're all kind of in it together in a certain capacity. That's why, you know, at the end of the day, I definitely, you know, think about the common person who's maybe not swimming in cash, you know, and that doesn't mean that I don't make music for someone who is, because I certainly do. But, you know, I'm very, very, very privy to real life circumstances. So I'm all about, you know, being an upright citizen and, you know what I'm saying, very forward and saying what I really mean and not going back on a commitment to anyone.
Do you feel that other artists, other hip hop artists, other MCs who may be on similar trajectories that you are, do you feel like that other artists are maybe your peers are all, kind of supportive of each other, or is there, something else going on there? Do you feel like other artists are supportive of you and each other?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel support from plenty of people that I would consider my peers. And, in the event that there's instances where I don't feel like I'm being supported, I kind of shake that off because, arguably, you could get on the phone with a number of people who others may consider my peers. I don't think I have that many, but, another person who you might think is my peer might turn around and be like, well, CRIMEAPPLE doesn't support what I do. But that's not the case. For me, I have tunnel vision. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might listen to an artist who I fuck with. I might listen to their album twice, buy it and all that because I believe in that. But I might listen to it twice. I'm really not checking for anybody. You know what I'm saying? Whether, like, I'm not checking for nobody like that. You know what I'm saying? Unless I feel like I'm going to get something from it. You know what I'm saying? But, like, if I'm not getting nothing from it, the only thing I might be able to get from it is, like, something that could dilute my process. And I don't need that. So I really don't, I'm not listening to a lot of cats. I really don't, people get in my car and they laugh at the shit I listen to because I'm not listening to rap like that.
Wait, what are you listening to?
I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm listening to fucking Light FM, the oldies. I might be listening to some classic rock. I might be listening to some salsa. I can't do rap 24 hours a day, though.
I don't know if any of us could.
Yeah, it's not, for me as a creator, it's not even conducive to my process. So I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I definitely feel like there's definitely plenty of people who are supporting and rocking who, might post a link or a picture or whatever, and they don't have to. And I respect that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just very, I'm very clear on my process and how I go about doing stuff. So it's like, yo, if you drop some shit, you know what I'm saying, and I happen to not see it because I'm not on Instagram all day and I didn't post it, don't think I don't support you. I just got tunnel vision like a motherfucker.
Right. When it comes to artists like yourself who are independent, DIY, that type of stuff, and then in comparison to maybe the sort of stereotypes of what a rapper is and anything, what are some of the myths do you think exist that you don't think are really true for a hip hop artist this day and age?
I mean, the biggest myth is that unfortunately, everyone's not a killer. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's not busting off like that. But that's kind of always been, part of the genre, I guess. I don't know. I kind of just do what I do, man. And like I said, just tunnel vision. I don't pay too much attention to anything that anyone has to say. If it's negative, more power to you. If it's positive, thank you very much, more power to you. It's just my objective is to just, do business the best way possible. And first and foremost, just make the best quality music with the most integrity that I can.
What do you think has been the most satisfying part of being a independent DIY artist?
Honestly, that in itself, being an independent DIY artist at an age where, everyone will have you believe that it's like, it's kind of like a crapshoot or a pipe dream. So the fact that I've even, gotten as far as I've come is very satisfying to me. I could die today, but that's it. Like, I'm already solidified in my hood. No one ever did it like I did it coming from where I'm coming from. So that in itself makes me happy every day. You know what I'm saying? And I just know it's the tip of the iceberg, though.
If someone was listening to this interview, had no idea who you were, wasn't even a hip hop fan, never listened to anything, what is it about your life? What is it about your life or career that could be, that they could learn something from, that could be transferable to, how they live their life? What's something about your life and career?
I would say that, it's cheesy, really. It's kind of cliche, but it's the same old adage of it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up.
Word. Cool. And just to close out this interview, I did send you a question that I always end my interviews with earlier on. It's who is somebody that's been a part of your life or career that I could realistically interview and they would have some great stories to tell?
Hands down, Buck Dudley.
Oh, nice.
Buck Dudley for sure. Yeah, he's been around from the very beginning, so he could probably tell you one too many stories.
Nice. All right, what's next for you? Do you have any more anything else coming out in the future right now?
I mean, the two things that I can talk about, I have Plata y Salud y Plata coming out on Tough Con sooner than later, and then I also got a project called Perfect 3. Outside of that, it's definitely a lot of things, but I don't want to really spoil it. I think people appreciate the element of surprise.
Oh, definitely. I love surprises.
Yeah, so there's a lot of surprises.
Great. If anybody wants to, keep in touch with you, hear your music or whatever, where can they catch you online?
It's real simple. I mean, I don't like to give out links and shit like that. Just go on Google CRIMEAPPLE. It'll come up.
Yeah, you're easily Googleable, I guess. Googleable? Is that the word?
I'm definitely Googleable. 100% Googleable.
Definitely. Yeah, man, it's been great talking with you, man, and good luck on everything, man.
No doubt. Likewise. I appreciate your time, brother.
So that was my interview with CRIMEAPPLE. Go pick up that new album, Aguardiente. It is one of my favorite hip-hop albums of the year thus far, if not my favorite, period. CRIMEAPPLE also has some other music out there in the internets, in the ether, to go ahead and check out. So just Google CRIMEAPPLE, all one word, and there'll be some SoundCloud, some Bandcamps that come up, all great music. Definitely support the brother. Now on to the Fresh is the Word Fresh Pick of the Week. This episode's pick is the new album Manifest from the Austrian-born drum and bass producer Mefjus. I've been following Mefjus' the release of tracks from this album for a while now through Noisia Radio, which is hosted by the Dutch trio Noisia, who also run Vision Recordings, in which this album was released on. Definitely really dig this album. I was instantly enthralled by sort of the diversity of the sounds from Mefjus. The mixing of the hard and soulful drum and bass sounds, and not necessarily sticking to a typical format when it comes to drum and bass. This is definitely a must listen if you like anything adjacent to drum and bass. So that was the Fresh Pick of the Week. And before we leave you this episode, definitely want to remind you how you can support the podcast. Fresh is the Word is available on all sorts of platforms: iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Mixcloud, SoundCloud, Google Play, and TuneIn. Just subscribe by typing in Fresh is the Word, and it should come up. Please give Fresh is the Word a review and a rating if you can, possibly 5 stars on Apple Podcast. And if I do see that you left a review, I'll definitely read it on one of the future episodes. If you want to follow me online, I'm at Twitter and Instagram at KellyOmegaFresh, on Facebook at facebook.com/KFresh, and on Mixcloud at mixcloud.com/Rensoul. And Fresh is the Word, you can find Fresh is the Word at freshasthepodcast.com. That's where you can find out all the show notes, the links, everything for this and all the podcast episodes. On Twitter, Fresh is the Word is at FITW Podcast. On Instagram, it's at Fresh is the Word Podcast. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/Fresh is the Podcast. On SoundCloud, it's soundcloud.com/Fresh is the Word Podcast. Now that's it for this week's episode. Thank you for listening as always. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.